Can you imagine if you're going to live in a completely chaotic world? Of course, we can't live in this kind of world. Because if we are going to live in this kind of world, we are not going to survive. Hi everyone! Do you want to know more about Ian Stewart's? So the 9 chapters of Ian Stewart's Nature's Numbers is all about the numerical patterns that we see in the environment. It was said there that all the things that we can see around us is related to mathematics. Or should I say that mathematics is everywhere? So what is chaos? In dictionary, chaos means unexpected behavior that we can observe by the people or by the things around us. But if we are going to relate it into mathematics, chaos is one of those who makes us realize or shows us that even the systems obeying or following the basic principles may also act in an unexpected or complicated ways.
What's up mga queens? For today's video, we're here at Lukban, Quezon! Specifically at Kamay Jesus! For today's video, what we're gonna talk about is the chapter 9 of Ian Stewart's Drops, Dynamics, and Daisies. Ano, G? G! Arat na!
It is as if nature can only get from simple laws, like Newton's incredibly simple law of thermodynamics, to fairly simple outcomes orbit of the planets via almost incomprehensibly complex processes. To start, Stewart gives us the example of the way apparently simple phenomena in nature derive from stupefying complexity. What exactly happens when a drop of water falls off a top? Computer modeling of the growth of crops and rabbit populations. Why petals and flowers are arranged in numbers derived from the Fibonacci sequence. So, ito na nga ang hanash. Oh. Pero, parang nawawala si... Oh, where have you been? I've been waiting for you. Ano, G ka ba?
G!
Edi ikaw na.
Alam niyo ba na sa simpleng pagpatak ng tubig sa gripo, ito ay nagtuturo na sa agad sa atin ng chaos? Such a simple everyday phenomenon, yet it has already taught us about chaos. Now, it will teach us something about complexity. This time, we do not focus on the timing of successive drops. Instead, we look at what shape the drop takes up as it detaches from the end of the top. Well, it's obvious, isn't it? It must be the classic teardrop shape, rather than like a tadpole, round at the head and curving away to a sharp tail. After all, that's why we call such a shape of teardrop. But it's not obvious. In fact, it's not true. When I was first told of this problem, my main surprise was the answer has not been formulated long ago. Literally miles of library shelves are filled with scientific study of fluid flow. Surely, somebody took the trouble to look at the shape of a teardrop water. Yet, the early literature contains only one correct drawing made over a century ago by the physicist Lord Rayleigh, and it is so tiny that hardly anybody noticed it. In 1990, the mathematician Howell Peregrine and his colleagues at Bristol University photographed the process and discovered that it has far more complicated but also far more interesting than anybody could ever imagine. The formation of the detached drop begins with a bulging droplet hanging from the surface, the end of the top. It develops a waist, which narrows, and the lower part of the droplet appears to be heading toward the classic teardrop shape. But instead of pinching off to the short tail, the waist lengthens into a short, thin cylindrical thread with an almost spherical drop hanging from its end. At this stage, the general shape is like a knitting needle that is just touching an orange. Then the orange falls away from the needle, pulsating slightly as it falls. But that's only half of the story. Now, the sharp end of the needle begins to round off, and the tiny waves travels back up to the needles towards its roots, making it look like a string of pearls that become tinier and tinier. Finally, the hanging thread of water narrows to a sharp point up to the end, and it too detaches. As it falls, its top end round-ups a complicated series of waves travels along it. He loves me not. He loves me. He loves me not!
By the way, my third and final example of mathematical regularity of nature that emerges from complexity rather than having been built in the rules is the number of petals of flowers. Have been mentioned in the previous Hanash, the chapter 1, that the majority of plants have a number of petals taken from the series 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, 55, 89, and so on. However, just because living organisms have complicated DNA sequence that determine which proteins they are made of, and so on, it doesn't follow that genes determine everything. And even if they do, they may do so only indirectly. For example, genes tell plants how to make chlorophyll, but they don't tell the plants what color the chlorophyll has to be. If it's the chlorophyll, it's green. There's no choice. For some features of the morphology of living creatures are the genetic in origin, and some are a consequence of physics, chemistry, and the dynamics of growth. One way to tell the difference is that genetic influences have economics flexibility, but physics, chemistry, and dynamics produce mathematical regularities. Moving on, kilalanin naman natin ang mga person. Dolly and Heather found a dynamic explanation for the golden angle. They built their ideas upon an important insight of Wohel dating from 1979. His theory is again a descriptive one. It concentrates on the geometry of the arrangement rather than on the dynamics that cause it. He performed numerical experiments which strongly suggested that if successive Primogia are placed along the generative spiral using the golden angle, they will pack together most efficiently. For instance, suppose that instead of the golden angle, you try a Fibonacci numbers, divergence angle of 90 degrees which divides 360 degrees exactly. Then, successive Primogia are arranged along 4 radial lines. The Primogia are arranged along 4 radial lines forming a cross. In fact, if you use a divergence angle that is a rational multiple of 360 degrees, you always get a system of radial lines. So, there are gaps between the lines and the Primogia that don't pack efficiently. Drops. The dynamics! Ay, sino ko naman kasi?
Wait lang ha, tatawagan ko lang.
Hindi na makukumpleto ang buhay natin niya.
Ano na sis? Balita sa inyo. Balita ko'y may ihahanash ka pa sa amin. Ay naku, napaghuhulihan na kayo. Teka. Bago mo i-chika, dadaanan muna namin kayo.
Hello mga queens! So ito na nga. Bago ako mapag-iwanan sa Hanash, I'm gonna spill it to you na.
The second example is about dynamics. It refers to the animal population. The use of this phrase refers to a long traditional of mathematical modeling
in which the changes in population of interacting creatures are represented by differential equations. In this case, the simulation was carried out by means of a cellular automation, which you can think as a kind of a mathematical computer game. MATLAB, Rand, and Wilson lacking my bias in terms of peak, consider the more traditional fractals and gravity. The computer screen is divided into a grid or square, and each square is assigned to a color, say, red for a fox, gray for a rabbit, green for a grass, and black to a bear rock. Then, a system of rules is set up to model the main biological influences at work. Example of such is, if there is a grass nearby, a rabbit will move to that spot and consume the grass.
That's it for today's video. Thank you guys for watching. Bye!